right, hey there, Brett Tremblay with Get Staffed Up. We're back for another Candid Convo, meaning there's no script in place. I have with us today a really good friend and a client, a business colleague. His name is Marc Cerniglia. Marc and I do a lot of different things together, and we've watched each other grow up in the business world. And Marc has a really cool company that we love. It's called Spotlight Branding, and I'll let him tell you a little bit more about it.
Yeah, I appreciate it. And we should make sure everyone out there knows while we're good friends, none of this is staged, right? Because I think one of the things that's always been a key to our business relationship is that we're both paying customers of each other's businesses, right? And I think that's really important. It's totally not a you scratch my back, I'll scratch yours. So I'm here of my own free will to talk about my experience with Get Staffed Up. But yeah, no, I appreciate it, Brett. I own a company called Spotlight Branding, as you said. We're one of the top legal marketing firms in the nation, specifically focused on content marketing for solo and small law firms. So Spotlight Branding is going to focus specifically on not only creating your website, but creating your social media content, your blog content, your email newsletter, and really making sure that you're building a great brand and reputation by putting out great content and helpful resources. And that's our bread and butter.
Tell me this, Marc. You guys grew the company. You're very well known in legal circles. You've got about 8 to 10 people in-house. And just recently you decided that having a virtual marketing assistant through Get Staffed Up,
yeah,
it was going to be beneficial to you and your company. So what was the deciding factor? What pushed you over the edge, and why did you make that decision?
Well, I should just clarify in that story. I mean, we've had as many as 13 in our office before, and we've only grown since. So but it wasn't super intentional, but I think we kind of slowly realized, like, wow, we don't need 13 people, especially when they're all here. It's expensive. And I think, as a business owner, I think you take a certain level of pride in knowing you're creating jobs and that sort of thing. But I think most business owners would agree that, staffing is just always the biggest expense item, biggest line item. And I think there were, just to put it very frank, there were so many things I wanted to do in my business that I just feel like I couldn't afford. Almost every idea I had just required more manpower, and we can play the game all day long of, well, I think this idea will make me money, and if it does, then it'll be worth it. But, Get Staffed Up presented an opportunity to get the manpower that I needed for some things at a fraction of the cost. And interestingly enough, as a marketing company, believe it or not, the biggest place that we wanted to invest into is our own marketing, right? So the large majority of marketing we do for our lawyer clients is still done in-house by our team. But we have a lot of stuff we do for ourselves, that goes beyond what we even just do for clients. And hiring a full-time in-house marketing assistant, because I already have a marketing manager, it would just be really pricey, and there'd be a lot of pressure to make that person return value quickly. And so Get Staffed Up provided a more affordable way to get that person in here, but frankly also kind of without as much pressure to get value as quickly in return. Not that we don't get value, but just the pressure is not there.
Yeah, and I want to touch on something real quick, because at Get Staffed Up, we don't hang our hat on being the cheapest. There are ways to find somebody in another country for even cheaper than we will be able to provide one for you. But we hang our hat on finding the best. Nobody has a better screening, sourcing, and hiring system than we do. But there's still a price component, and people make the point, yeah, but it still costs me money. For example, in my law firm in Miami, if we were going to hire an in-house marketing assistant, you're looking at, 50, 60,000. You're in Charlotte, it's got to be somewhere close, but
right.
Through Get Staffed Up, it's 22,000. And that allows you, as the point you've made before, to try things, to experiment, because you don't have to find the return with such a huge number, and then you can comfortably grow your company. As you mentioned, having 13, you don't have quite as many. It can be stressful when you constantly want to hire and you really want to create jobs, but man, it's tough to always keep up.
You know, it is. And I think, you know, it's really interesting, you know, because, you know, I have plenty of like client facing positions, and I don't want to throw like the word never out there, but, you know, I think I think it's very likely to say that in Spotlight Branding's future, you know, I'll probably mostly try to keep our client facing roles and, you know, the most significant work we do here in house, not because offshore people can't do a great job. I just think no matter what your business is, there are going to be some things that just, even just the ability to walk down the office and oversee a project or something can be helpful. But even just hiring one offshore virtual employee with you guys, my wheels are already turning on all the other roles that I could be bringing in, even beyond marketing, you know, and just really seeing that the best formula for me is probably a combination of in-house people that are client facing or that do the most critical work, but then having those team members supported by full-time offshore people. It gets me really excited because it's more cost effective. I can have more manpower. And so that's kind of a formula I'm really excited about moving forward.
Yeah, that's an interesting nuance, that you're not just moving the whole business virtually. You're going to have your people in-house. You're going to support them with more, you know, man, woman power virtually, so that your in-house person can now manage 3 or 4 people, and you can just exponentially increase your output. That's what I
Exactly.
think. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. Like that's why I gave the example. And not that, you know, potential clients of yours have to do it this way, but I have a marketing manager, but that marketing manager can only do so much. And so now that marketing manager having a marketing assistant, you know, just the output is amazing now, you know? And so I think it doesn't have to work like that again, but I want my marketing manager, because my marketing manager is the one that gets on the phone with vendors and strategic relationships and develop some of those marketing relationships. And not that an offshore person couldn't do that, but I think there's just some things you want close to home. But you know, the way that I'm able to increase the output by having them support my team members is really great. You know, and it's not just, it doesn't have to be that you're an assistant to somebody, right? I mean, especially when you think about like back office positions and administrative positions, you know, those roles just support the whole team. You know, so eventually you'll be hearing from me for those roles also.
Yeah, I mean, that's what we tell people. So my law firm, because I still run a law firm in Miami, we're layering in the virtual team members along with our in-house team members. And nowadays, some law firms, for example, are starting from scratch and they want to be 100% virtual. Well, I started the firm almost 9 years ago. If it was an option then, I never heard about it. And this is something that slowly is coming into the conscience of sort of middle America, middle businesses, small businesses, because the big boys, as we've said, the big companies, I mean, they've been at this game for a while, saving costs. And now we're starting to figure out how we can also leverage economies of scale and economic triage, if you will, because the people we're finding are incredible. They're energetic. They're happy. They're willing to learn. They're educated. Again, this is not like we're going to go find the bottom of the barrel and pay them as little as possible. But our staffers, and now we're moving to the term marketing virtual assistants, admin virtual assistants, and clerical virtual assistants. They're paid above the median wherever they are. And so that helps us. We don't have a lot of turnover.
Yeah, I want to comment on that because I think that's one of the things that really stood out to me when you explained this model, you know, to me for the first time. I think there's such a perception of the idea of, you know, having any work done outside of the United States. You know, you think about like sweatshops and things like that, where everything's about terrible working conditions and low wages. And that's just not what we're talking about here. And that's not my experience, right? Like no matter what country we're talking about, you know, other countries outside of the US that maybe just have a smaller economy in terms of the value of money there, that doesn't mean there isn't phenomenal talent there, right? And what you guys are doing is you're basically finding that talent, which basically means for me, I'm getting someone who is just as talented as somebody here in the States, right? But because of the economy they live in, if I pay them fairly, I'm actually giving them a great salary, proportionally better than I could give someone here, actually, when you think about quality of life, right? So you know, going back to that personal sense of pride I have in employing people, as much as I do have pride in my country and being an American, it's kind of neat to think about, you know, I could pay somebody 40 or 50 here for a job. and it would allow them to live this quality of life. But paying someone the 22 in, say, Mexico, for example, they're actually living this quality of life. And so that's actually, not only is it better for me and for the health of the company, but in some ways I'm like, there's even, more personal fulfillment in that.
Yeah, and I tell people we're helping the global economy. You will also grow faster and help the local economy because with more virtual people, your company will grow faster and then you can hire here faster. So it's
Yes.
easy for us to say because we argue it's a win-win-win, but of course we would argue that. So let me kind of finish with this, Mark, because again, you and I could go on all day. You guys are a branding company, but a lot of that is marketing. You do a ton of marketing for my law firm. You do a ton of marketing for hundreds of lawyers, and yet you find value in hiring more marketing personnel for yourself. Just kind of tell me about, a lot of people think maybe I can hire a virtual assistant to answer the phones, which you can, by the way, and for clerical work. But what about the virtual marketing assistant?
For example, I mean, every day I'm able to send my virtual marketing assistant, like just this morning, here's a great example. I pulled out my phone and I filmed a selfie video walking through the office talking about tips for creating a COVID policy in your office, just sharing with the world what we're doing to make our office safer in case that inspires any other business owners on how to make their office safer. And I recorded in about 2 minutes, send it to my virtual staffer, and she's just gonna add some music, maybe cut some things to make it a little crisper, and just like that, today I'm gonna have a polished little video to send out. And tomorrow it might be taking some social media posts and creating some graphics out of them, and she can just use, an online software like Canva or something like that to create some quick graphics. So there's just so many little things like tweaks and design changes or video edits. She can also do research for me. Like I want to learn more about a couple different products that we use marketing software wise. And so I say, hey, can you just spend an afternoon just learning all about this software and then tell me what you learn? So just feel like there's a lot of things we constantly can send them to keep momentum going, or just to make something better. Because a few months ago, I'd have just posted that video I took this morning as a straight selfie video, but now it's actually going to have some editing and look nicer. And so just little things like that that all add up.
And those little things, like that's what I was just going to say, they all add up. They take up so much time and you can make them so much better, so much more bandwidth and things. Like I don't have mental clutter because I delegate. And I'm not like, I can't forget that idea. I can't forget. One day I'll get to that idea. Just so many little things. But listen, we're at the end of our time. Tell us how people can contact you.
Yeah, so I mean, if they want to learn more about Spotlight Branding, honestly, the best thing you can do is go to the website. Go to spotlightbranding.com. We have tons of content there, videos, blogs, do-it-yourself marketing tips. There's obviously contact forms and everything like that if you want to get in touch with us. Believe it or not, I'm not the person you want to speak with. I've got a great team that can talk to you and kind of figure out if we can help you. But if for some reason you just want to connect with me personally, I'd be happy to chat with you. And my personal email is Marc, M-A-R-C, not a K, but a C, at spotlightbranding.com. So if you want to reach me personally, I'd love to hear from you there. Otherwise, check out spotlightbranding.com to learn more about the business.
Marc, awesome, man. Thank you so much for jumping on with us today. It's always fun to chat with you. I mean, you're my go-to for a lot of technology issues, software issues, websites, legal marketing, and I just really value your input here, and we love having you as a client as well.
Great. Thanks. That's all good.
All right, buddy. We'll talk to you soon.